It's that time of the week again. It is time for the late mail with FPL D Unit, where we have a bit of fun, we have some entertainment, we have the cards calls, and I've got a jam-packed show for you once again today. We've got the press conference updates, D Unit style. Not going to sit here and bore you to death. And I've also got a draft that I put together today that leaves zero money in the bank for my own team. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to go to sleep and think about wildcarding tonight. I don't know why, but we'll get into that. And look, for all those people who are on wildcard, it's very anti-template, so hopefully it's enjoyable for you when we get to that section of the show. But without further ado, if you have been liking the content, please smash a like on the video. Leave us a comment with what you're doing. I hope to see you on the watch-alongs and the deadline streams tomorrow. And if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Ladies and gents, think about doing so. And with that being said, let's go. Hot on the press, game week 5. Are you kidding me? I knew there was something I'd forgotten, ladies and gents, and that was it. But here we are. We're just going to roll with it anyway. It is game week 6, and I can't be bothered changing it. So there we go. Diarra is out for Sunderland. Reynaldo, they're obviously going to have to shuffle that. He talked about Ballard coming in, playing right back potentially. I don't know what that means for Mukiele, but it could be interesting. And 09, and however you say that bloke's name must be close. I'm assuming that's an Irish name because it looks Irish. On to Maresca, and look, I do not envy owning Chelsea assets at all, especially if they're in the wing positions and stuff like this. But essentially, Palmer is going to be out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I hope post the international break, he should be fine. Tosin's obviously out as well. And Fofana, oh my God, what is wrong with me tonight? He is also out with a concussion, ironically, from the linking game midweek. Enzo prays, so that's good news. I did say Enzo's a really good shout, and we're going to talk about him a little bit later on. Then he talked about rotation, 3 games in a week, and that's not what we wanted to hear, Maresca, but I have been saying all along that he loves a bit of Maresca roulette, so watch out for that. He then had a go at Sanchez about the red card, but then talked about all the goals that he saved. So I'm thinking that he's going to be playing on the weekend, so you should be fine if you own Sanchez. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is still out. Everyone else is good. That's what Graham Potter said. He talked about the pressure, the job not being good enough, and pretty much admitted that if he doesn't Expelliarmus his way out of this conundrum at Everton on Monday night, he's probably sacked. No, that's just me very much paraphrasing and reading between the lines, but he does look like a dead man walking, and look, he honestly needs a bit of help at this point. Maybe someone just send him a potion and he can turn into like David Moyes. A bit of polyjuice potion, he should be good. Parker talked about colossal test against Man City, and I don't like trying to find out what Burnley managers said because they never do it on Friday, and I can never find out whether there's any injuries. So, Parker, can you please sort it out, mate? Just someone on their website, just put injuries where he talks about it. Someone ask him a question whether players are fit or not. On to Leeds, Daniel Farke, Perry, Gnotto, both out. James has a chance. He has been involved in some sort of training. Bogle's fine, so that's all right. Liverpool, Arnie Slot talked about Isaac being available to play 60 to 70 minutes like it's in pre-season. He's at that stage now where you would expect with Ekatike out, he will start against Palace. And I would put him in for 60 to 70 minutes. I'd take Slot at his word on that. He talked about Ekatike's silliness and discipline, and I don't know, it was very bizarre, that bit. And praise for Palace. I mean, every time they play Palace, Palace seem to score the same amount of goals as Liverpool. He talked about whether he's been lucky with the results so far, and I think he's been lucky, but he pretty much said, whatever. And then Leone, unfortunately for that young man, he is going to be out for probably a year or close to it with an ACL injury. So that's devastating news for him. We wish him a speedy recovery. On to Brighton. Hinzelwood is out. De Kuyper, though, and Weefer are definitely back and available. Minta and Gruda should be fine. And then he talked about João Pedro. And obviously Maresca talked about João Pedro as well because Brighton played Chelsea and João Pedro used to play for Brighton. So that makes a lot of sense. And there we go. So on to the second part of the game week 5, the game week 6. I'm just going to own it. I know it's a mistake. I'm tired, man. I'm tired. It's like 11:30 at night here trying to put this together. And I'm going to do a live show in future post the international break because it takes me a lot less time to sit there and do a live than it does for me to record the video and then upload it. But Saar, full week of training with Wharton too. So he's good. Saar, I've held you for this long. You're back, baby. We're ready to go. He said, can he play for 90 minutes? Can he play for 100 minutes? I think he definitely starts. It would be the way I talked, the way I read that. Pinot, Bruce, more or less, pretty much everyone's available. So that's pretty good news for Palace. Pereira, pretty much the only thing I could read up on him, again, it's all about Jorgen Strand-Larsen. That's the only person that seems to be getting asked by reporters there. Basically said that he's going to be minutes managed. So he's not available for 90 minutes. I would suggest he probably starts. But then again, last week he didn't. Who really knows? It's just a guessing game. He obviously got some minutes in the cup midweek, so yeah, Wolves need him for realistically not this week. They need him for the next few after this one. Bournemouth, Smith, Unai, exactly the same as last week, still out. They're going to be out for a little while. Cook, shoulder problem, but he could be fit. They're going to have to assess him on the day. Everyone else is available. And Iriola basically said they're in a very good spot, and that's a nice spot to be in. I mean, they're in good form, tight defensively, getting the points, and what more do you really want in life? Martinez, Aston Villa. Oh, I wish someone asked Emery if Watkins is going to score a goal, so I knew whether it was worth wildcarding this week or not. But no one did, sadly, and he probably doesn't know the answer to that either, because neither do I and neither does anyone else. Martinez, hopefully available. No Tielemans, Barkley, Anana. They are still no good. They're still no good. Unlucky. No new injury news from Fulham. Kevin's back in training following a shoulder injury, so he should be sweet on the weekend as well. Spurs, Solanke's had a bit of a problem with his ankle. Hasn't come back quite as good. The koala bear is also out. He's got a bit of a dead leg that seems to be just carrying on. And Sarr missed out midweek due to a precaution more than anything else. He sounded hopeful that he'd be available this weekend, but I'm not sure about that. Then on to the big one. Ange Postecoglou talked about the striker selection and how good Jesus has been, and then how good Wood was last season. Look, if you're playing and starting in the Europa League and you score twice, I don't see how you lose your spot in the league. So take that from the D unit's perspective. I reckon Wood, the Woody Woodpecker, is going to be on the bench. So if you own Wood, I mean, I could be wrong, but you don't score 2 goals in the Europa League and then get demoted to the bench. I just cannot see that happening. Murillo, unfortunately, looks like he's going to be no good. Same with Douglas Luiz. Now, the good news is he said no one else was a problem, so that means Milinkovic obviously did only go off a cramp and should be fine. He talked about tiredness as well, and basically, yeah, just the return to Europe, really. So well done, Ange, and crack on, and maybe just keep a clean sheet. Then you can go full Ange ball, because I'm only holding for one more week, baby. Sort it out. And then on to the last one of the Game Week 5 hot off the press. So you can tell I'm tired now. But yes, Ahmad, unfortunately, he's out due to a family death, and hopefully they're going to win for him. I hope they win for him as well, because I've got double United attack, and I'm definitely hoping for that. Now, Dalot is back, which I would have said is normally bad news for Dorgu, but with Ahmad being out and Mazraoui ruled out, you would think that Dalot will play right wing back and Dorgu surely starts at left wing back. So that's really good news there. And Mbumo prays pretty much from Man United's Amarin as well. And look, this reeks of an Mbumo goal in this game. I'm not even going to lie. I feel like it's pretty inevitable in this game with his form and stuff. The goals are going to be coming. Odegaard could be available. That's what Arteta said. Saka, nothing to report. Basically, they played him and that was fine. And there was no update on Madueke. And then he talked about contracts for Saliba and Saka in hopes that they sign him. So I think any Arsenal supporter will say they hope they sign him as well. On to Pep Guardiola. No 8 Nori, Marmoush, Cherki, Kushanov. He talked about Savinio. And the big news, obviously, is the big cyborg. He is ready. Those were the words of Pep Guardiola. Now, is he ready to start on the bench? Or is he ready to place the triple captaincy on? You decide that one and let me know if you are now tempted to play the triple captain on one Mr. Erling Haaland, the Norwegian cyborg. On in Newcastle, Howe sees Voldemort, interestingly, as a number 9, not as a number 10, as a lot of thought. But basically that's probably because of the fact that Wisser is still not available until after the international break. He had praise for Osula, who'd scored twice in midweek, and basically I think Newcastle fans would also like to see him up front, to be honest, just while we're waiting for Wissa, because I feel like a lot of Newcastle fans see Walter Matey as a 10 more than a 9. Ramsey's out, unfortunately, and Gordon returns off suspension. So if you've been holding him, if you're FPL Nightmare, you can bring him back in and you can triple captain him this game week. The pressure's on, mate. You called him out as a redemption arc. I'm calling you out. Man up, triple captain him, do it. Moyes, Braithwaite and Roll are still out. Unfortunately, Braithwaite's had a kind of re-injury there, which is not ideal. He was happy with the form and the new stadium and basically said that Potter's in a difficult spot, but he's a good manager. But basically, he's not me. That's what David Moyes would have liked to have said. He's not me. But he didn't. He was a professional and carried on. And, West Ham are missing what they got rid of twice. I mean, Moyes has just been so good for them and he's gone over and continue on. And then lastly, Brentford, Nelson to be assessed before the game. Maghoma and Nunes are still building their fitness. And then he talked about Mbumo probably getting a nice return and pretty much praised him as well. Yeah, that's hot off the press for game week 6, believe it or not. It's not game week 5, it's game week 6. You're definitely watching the right video, I can promise you that much. So, there we go, game week 6. Is it time to bin off these players? And look, he's one of mine. Ollie Watkins is one of mine. And look, I have been very, very unimpressed. They continue to look like a stale fish. Like, that fish that you get from a fish and chip shop and you accidentally leave it overnight and it's like 30 degrees and then you wake up the next morning and your house absolutely stinks of fish. That's what Villa are at the moment. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. No good. Watkins missed a penalty as well in the Europa League, which is probably done his chances of taking the next one. He's probably tanked him. He's probably absolutely tanked him. So even if they get a penalty this week and he's not involved in winning it, he's probably not taking it because he's missed. And Villa don't have very good penalty takers, unfortunately. And Watkins, again, he's not in form. I don't know how he even gets into form. He needs the ball to be on the line and for him to just hit him unwillingly and go in and maybe that gets him up. But look, I'm ready to just chuck him in the bin. I've had enough. That's why I'm also kind of tempted to wildcard now. And we'll talk about what I've come up with a little bit later. But that is concerning. And I'm sick of him. I'm sick of Milinkovic as well. But, maybe this is the week they finally repay me. I don't know. Wirtz has not been getting it done. And he's also been benched. So he's another player that a lot of people own that probably losing patience. And look, I want to get rid of these guys. If I was on Wildcard, I'd 100% get rid of a lot of them. They've been absolutely woeful in terms of an FPL perspective. In terms of actual football, I think Wirtz has actually been all right. He's just not been involved in the FPL. So that doesn't make him a good FPL option at the moment, but it could easily change. Wood obviously lost his place in the Europa League midweek, and I think it's time for him to be left in the forest. I don't think he's going to be coming back anytime soon. He's going to be sitting on the wood for quite a long time, I think. Igor Jesus looks pretty good, and I think he's definitely much more an Ange-type striker than what, unfortunately, Crystal Woody Woodpecker is, but he did have a GOAT season last season, so well done, mate. Enjoy that, and right off into the forest. Which Brentford will show up against Man United? That is the real question, because, look, they have had 3 goals kicked past them in multiple games this season. Will that happen again against Man United at home? Look, I think it's inevitable Man United score in this game. It's just a matter of how many goals they score. And Man United are the leaders for XG across the competition at the moment. So hopefully it's a week where they go big. And is there any hope for Wolves' first point away at Tottenham? Look, I'm not going to lie. I don't think there is. I think Wolves are still going to be searching for their first win of the season, their first draw of the season, maybe even a goal. They've already had goals, obviously, but I don't think they're going to score against Spurs. And yeah, unfortunately, it sucks to be a Wolves fan at the moment, sitting at the bottom. So which 2 City assets? Now, most people have Haaland, right, on Wildcard, if you're on Wildcard, or you already own him like I do. Which 2 other City assets do you want? Now, at the moment, I currently own Reinders myself, and he's gone up to 5.7 overnight. He's had the 5 starts, 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 clean sheets, 1 DC, which was very lucky to get. Thankfully, they closed the game before they could take the 1 off him last week. But he's averaging 5.2 points per game, and he's been playing 90 minutes every week. Now, the unfortunate thing here is that his underlying attacking data is actually not that good, and neither is Phil Foden's, to be honest with you. But and we'll talk about Burnley in a second. I actually think that I'd go triple City attack. And we'll have a look at the new updated wildcard draft I put together in a little bit, and I'm going to sleep on it. But essentially, I think triple City attack is actually the way to go this week. Look at the next few fixtures. Burnley at home, Brentford away, rubbish defence. Everton at home should be easy. Aston Villa away should be easy. Bournemouth at home, tricky. Liverpool at home, tricky. Like the last 2 games, tricky fixtures. No denying that at all. But the next 4, I feel like you're just getting big points. And with the Pep's update in the press conferences today, no Cherky, no Marmouche. There's less rotation. Savinio, I don't think is going to be taking either of their spots. And I don't think that Doku's under threat because there's no one else that really plays on the left. Foden's definitely going to play in that 10. Reiner's going to play in that like midfield 3. I just think they both start like 90 minutes. I don't know if they'll play 90 minutes like with the Champions League this week. But like the next 2 weeks, I think they're great. I honestly believe they're great. And I really wish I'd just bought Phil Foden. I mean, he's risen in price the same amount as Semenyo this week, and that was why I bought Semenyo. But now Phil Foden's risen. I'm like, oh man, I've missed out on this one. But then if you wanted to look at the defence, look, Donnarumma's a really good shout. I just think at 5.6 million though, only 2 saves per game. Well, it's only been 2 games to be fair. I don't know. 5.6 million is a lot for a goalkeeper. I know that I bought Raya at 5.5 and now he's 5.6, but like, look, yeah, I'm not sure. Vardiol, though, I really like. At 5.8 mil, he offers, and I know he's offered no attacking threat through the first 2 games of the season, but the dude, we know what he can do. He's already got the DC in 1 game, CS in another. His DCs per 90 is 8.5, and I feel like he's just a really good asset to own from City. So, I don't know. If you had twisted me, I'd say Foden and Reinders plus Haaland. But if I'm being sensible, it's Foden, Vardiol, and Haaland. I think that's where I'd go. That's where I'd land up. I honestly think that Phil Foden's getting back to the 23-24 season where he got 19 non-penalty goals. So that's just my personal opinion on that one. So alternative players on Wildcard. Look, no one's really talked about these guys, and neither have I this week. So I just thought that this is the time to actually show some differentials you can get in your teams and why they're actually pretty damn good. So look, Dan Burn, 5 million. Why is no one talking about this, man? 5.9% ownership. Now, everyone talks about the DCs, right? He's got him in 3 out of 5 games. That's 1 less than Anderson, but he's kept 3 clean sheets more than Anderson. He's averaging 6.4 points per game, which is also, again, a boatload more than Anderson. I know he's 0.5 more, but Newcastle's defence has been elite. 0.53 expected goals conceded per 90. They've only conceded against Liverpool. Like, they've obviously got Arsenal this week, and I feel like this game could be another 0-0. I'm not even going to lie. I could definitely see that happening. Both defences are elite so far this season, and there's no reason to think it's not going to continue. And if you look past this week, there's a lot of clean sheets in there. Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Brentford. I think they're going to keep quite a few more, to be honest with you. Then we got the Pigeon, my boy. He's in draft, and look, I'm excited. Like, we'll look at my wildcard draft very shortly, but look, this is another man that I'm very excited about. He's averaging 5.8 points per game. Now, he does drop down in terms of minutes, only 69 minutes, but with Slanky out, Koala Bear out, you'd imagine his minutes is going to be pretty good. And the next 2 weeks is when you really want him, prior to that international break, where he's probably going to get benched in game week 8 because that's what happened after the last international break. But the next 2 fixtures should be really good for the Pigeon. It's a short-term play, but it's a great play. And I reckon it'll be great. I would be very surprised if he didn't return in both of the next 2 weeks. And that's pretty much what you want him for. And then you can move. Then we've got Brian Mbeumo. Now, there's a story behind him. Obviously, he's going back to Brentford. I can easily see him scoring here. His underlying data, obviously no penalties involved in this, is through the roof. He should have a lot more than 1 goal to his name so far this season, and I think it's coming this week. I feel like it's coming this week and next week with Sunderland at home. Bar the Liverpool away game, Man United's fixture run is actually pretty decent. They're literally playing teams in Europe, and they'll have an advantage because of the fact that they're going to be fresher. I think that we're sleeping on their assets. They're the leaders of the XG table by a country mile, and they've played Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man City in 3 of those 5 games, and yet they lead the XG battle. That tells you they're actually attacking quite well, so that means the returns will eventually come, hopefully pretty soon. And then we got Enzo. Now, no one's really talking about Enzo, and I'm really shocked why. So, most people are looking on an Ndiaye, and the cartel have been peddling Ndiaye all week, but Enzo's a really good alternative. 6.7 mil, so you do have to pay up a little bit more. But now with Cole Palmer out, we know he's on penalties. So the argument that Ndiaye's on penalties, Enzo's now on penalties as well for the foreseeable future. He's already returned more points than old mate Ndiaye as well. He plays more minutes, and he's averaging more points per game. I mean, I don't know what else there is. And he's even got DC points in one of those games as well. So again, I just think that Enzo is going to be great. And I just think that if you're tossing up between him and Ndiaye, I would go Enzo. Ironically, Enzo's percentage ownership is actually higher than Ndiaye's, but that'll probably change by the time the deadline rolls around tomorrow, and Enzo will actually be more of a differential. But look, I just thought I'd put it in there. Alternative players no one's really talked about all week, and I just thought I'd cover 4 of them who I think are going to be amazing assets moving forward. So onto my team selection, and look, it looks pretty good. Now, obviously, Sarr is still yellow flag in the game, but he should be available now. He's still going to sit on the bench. I mean, I have actually thought about swapping Watkins and Sarr this week because that could work. Also, I was worried that Milinkovic was going to miss out, but now that Dorgu's got a pretty nice fixture now. I've actually thought about, like, if I wildcard this week, when I go have a look at the new wildcard draft I've come up with, I'd just play Dorgu this week now because we know that he's guaranteed to be playing left wing back with those injuries and those outs. But yeah, so Semenyo's in, Udogie's in, Raya's in, obviously Sells, Collins and Gakpo out. Now, the other thing that makes me want a wild card is the fact that Milinkovic and Watkins are due to drop in price, unfortunately, tonight. So I'm going to lose 0.2 million team value, which is why I've sat there and I'm like, I'll wake up 8:30 in the morning, give me half an hour to wake up, have a can of Red Bull, think about my team, and then decide whether I'm going to do it. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is what I will go to. I've got exactly zero money in the bank, and you're not going to believe this. I've got no Arsenal players. It's hilarious, and I'll explain why. So this would be the team I go for. They actually would have a squad value of 100 million.4. There'd be nothing left in the bank. Actually, I didn't even need to play Dorgu because I don't even have Dorgu, but this is what I'll be going with. So I thought about the goalkeepers, right? And David Raya at 5.5 and Dubravka is 9.5 mil. I think I would rather, for a better play to play the bench boost on any given week, to have Petrovic and Pope as my two goalkeepers because they do align with really nice fixtures between now and when I would have normally played the bench boost anyway. And I feel like there's more potential for big points from those two than the other ones. Yes, you're going to give yourself a bit of a benching headache, but this week it's Petrovic starting and Pope and the thing. And then, unfortunately, the other problem with this draft is that obviously an Arsenal home is not a grey fixture there for Burn. It's red. I told you, I was pretty tired. I was trying to get this all together. And also, Brian and Boomer was not Bowen, but 8.1. I'm just rolling with the mistakes today. I'm just going to own them and just hope that you guys don't mind because, yeah, it is really late for me. And I've been so tired this week as well. But anyways, this is the team. I actually really like it. So let's talk it. So Senesi, Burn, really good for DC contributions. So is Richards, but obviously this week you play Van der Ven because he's got the Wolves at home fixture. You expect things. Now I've got Krejci there because I just think he's a wild card and I think that he's going to be unbelievably good. He could be a hack, and shout out to Alex Volo for discovering him. He's a really attacking defender. Now, I don't even know if he's a defender. I feel like he's been classified as a defender in FPL, but I don't even know if he's actually a defender. He could be a midfielder, but he's got really good goal for it. He had really good goal for it at his previous club, and he's brought it to Wolves and already scored in one of his first two games. I think there's great potential there, and I really like what he offers. And that's why I've got him in there. Wolves have an amazing run of fixtures. He's literally the fifth defender. Yes, I could have a 4 million in there and then upgrade Van der Ven to, like, I don't know, Lacroix or someone like that that's got a bit more potential. I mean, there is a world where you could sit there and I know you can't get him up to Tarkowski, but yeah, I just think it's a little bit different, and no one's got Dan Burn and no one's got Krejci or Richards really on their drafts as well. And I think Senesi is a no-brainer moving forward. Into the midfield, it is obviously Brian and Bruno Fernandes. There's a double-up Man United attack. They do have really nice fixtures coming up. And yes, I do have Bowen in the team. Oh my God, this really tripped me out. But yes, I've literally lost the plot. There's so many issues with this graphic, but we're just rolling with it. We're going to roll with the punches. And these are the players. The prices are all correct. It's just the fixtures and the colour of them are slightly off, and the name in case of Bowen, which is Brian and Bumo Bowen. There you go. But yeah, I really like it. And you've got the triple city attack there. So Foden, Reinders, Haaland. Look, last season, Phil Foden went away to Brentford and scored twice, and I had a dream about it. And I've got belief that this man actually might even be the captaincy. So the Cards team is actually, well, we'll talk about the Cards team a little bit in terms of what it's do before we do the card calls. But yeah, essentially, it looks really good. I don't think there's any flaws in it either. So I would go back to having two free transfers next week. So lots of people say, well, why have you got double United attack? What are you doing? Well, the idea would be to sell one of them in game week 8. Probably Brian and Bumo, let's be honest. And then I'd use the money out of him to then upgrade Richarlison in game week 8 as well. So those will be the two moves there. Everything else literally runs like clockwork. There's not a hell of a lot wrong with this team, like moving forward. The only real concern would be the Foden Reindeers HAALAND thing in terms of like rotation and that when the other players come back. But until they come back, they're going to be playing. So there's no really need to worry about that. And again, you could probably play your bench boost in game week 7 as well with this lineup. So yeah, lots to think about. If you are on wildcard, let me know what you think of that. Obviously, I'm sorry about the typos and stuff like that. I'm doing well tonight. Doing well. Sloppy, doing well. But I blame the tiredness. And we'll roll tomorrow. So on to my score predictions for this week. And look, you're going to say I'm probably a bit balmy here, but I'm going with Man United 4-0 over Brentford. I reckon they're going to smack them tomorrow. The stats have been coming. The attacking's been really good. I just think that it's going to be a 4-0 whitewash to Man United. Chelsea versus Brighton, I reckon that's going to be 1-1. I just see Chelsea struggling to score goals with their injuries. And I think Brighton will score. I just think they score. Bournemouth, I think, will do the job pretty easily against Leeds. 2-0 I'm going for there. Again, I think they'll keep a clean sheet. Crystal Palace, I'm actually going with 2-0 against Liverpool. They do seem to be Liverpool's bogey side, and if there's Liverpool, let's be honest, have been exceptionally lucky through this point of the season. I think that luck is due to run out, and I'm going with Crystal Palace. Man City 3-0 against Burnley. It's not going to be the smacking a lot of people think, and I think they're going to have to work for those goals, but they will come. I'm actually going... You're not going to believe this, folks. I'm going to go with a Phil Foden assist and a double for a 19-pointer and Erling Haaland to get the 1 goal. And that's it. Let's see what happens. Nottingham Forest 1-0 over Sunderland. It is going to be the Milenkovic 15-pointer this week. I have belief. I still believe. Spurs are going to beat Wolves 1-0. The Pigeons are going to score there, I reckon. Aston Villa are going to somehow score 3 goals. I don't know how. I just don't rate Fulham's defence at all. And I think that they go away, and I feel like now that Villa have actually won in the Europa League, they're going to have a bit of confidence, and hopefully Ollie Watkins just hits him and it goes in and we're loving life. Newcastle versus Arsenal has got a 0-0 written all over it, unfortunately. Both very good defences. I can't see anything else other than that. Yeah. And then Everton versus West Ham. I think it's going to be a sneaky 2-2 draw. Everton just aren't the same defensively without Branthwaite, and I think West Ham have got enough about them to actually score a couple of goals there, provided they keep 11 men on the field, which has been a bit of a problem for them so far this season. So one of my hot takes for Game Week 6, there will be at least one player that outscores HAALAND from Man City this week in that fixture. I'm calling it straight off the bat, and it's going to be Phil Foden. There might be a second one, you know. I actually think that HAALAND, everyone talks about triple captain, etc., etc. I just think someone outscores him this week, and I feel like it's Phil Foden. Don't be rushing to buy players who scored points in Game Week 5 because they're highly likely to blank in Game Week 6. The classic case, Gravenberch from Liverpool. He's not getting that. Stack is not getting the points again this week. I'm just telling you straight up. 1 week wonders, it's not going to happen in Game Week 6. This week, the masses are wildcarding and pivoting to HAALAND, but is it a mistake? Is it a mistake? Are they selling Salah because they'll want him then back in 2 weeks' time? That's the real question. Because they're already talking about wanting Salah back in Game Week 8. Well, if you already want him back in Game Week 8 and you're not going with him on wildcard, are you making a mistake? At the moment, they all seem to be following with the same team. So if they've all made a mistake, or none of them have made a mistake. So it's going to be interesting to see. The DC daddies are boring. Let's be honest, it is boring, but they are set and forget players. And I think that's how we have to sadly, I hate saying that, but I think that's how we have to view them moving forward. Obviously, you can have a little bit of a flavour with some of the ones you got, and hopefully you enjoyed my wildcard draft that I showed up before, because there are some DC points in there. This week obviously feels like a really swingy week based on how well the wildcard sixes go, and there are a lot of people on wildcard and how good the triple captaincy goes. Look, at the moment I'm on a -4 and I'm not playing a chip. I feel like it's either going to go one way or the other. I'm either going to be a genius. Milenkovic and Watkins are going to both return, and I'll feel really good about it, and I've kept my wild card. Or it's going to be an absolute disaster class, and I'm just hoping I'm finally on the right side of one of these really swingy things, because I feel like I've been dodging most of them, other than in Game Week 5 where I did get some luck, but I feel like that's it. And lastly, my hottest take of the night, Milenkovic and Watkins to finally deliver for the D unit to provide some faith and reward for holding them this damn long. So onto the cards team for Game Week 6, and look, it went pretty poorly in Game Week 5. It only got 42 points on wildcard, and yeah, unfortunately, the reason for that was it had Cole Palmer as captain. instead of Haaland, and that pretty much cost it. Otherwise, it would have been a good, big green arrow. It's still got a green arrow, 9.1 million, and this week it is going with the captaincy. Now, because this is the cards team, and I will do this for the deadline stream tomorrow, we're going to ask the card whether it wants to play the triple captaincy chip this week. Yes? No. All right, it does not want to play the triple captaincy chip, so the cards team is going in as is. Brian Mbeumo vice-captain, Haaland captain, João Pedro, Ivan Ilson, Semenyo, Palmer. See, I've told you I was having a few issues today. Palmer is now Mbeumo. So I got the fixture right, just didn't change the name. Even changed the price. What's wrong with me? Foden, Paqueta, Van de Ven, Tarkowski, Senesi, Dewsbury Hall's on the bench, Richards and Dan Burn with Dubravka. And now let's get into what everyone's been here for and waiting about half an hour for, the cards calls for Game Week 6. So last week, it was almost a 50-50 split, but it was 5 correct again for the card, and it got 3 wrong. It now is on 23 correct calls for the season, 8 draws, 9 wrong calls. Let's see what it can do in Game Week 6. So remember, if it lands on this side of the card, it is the left-hand side player. If it lands on the right-hand side, it is the one on, that side. It's on the right-hand side. All right, Xavi versus Kudos. All right, we're going with Xavi. Minte versus my non-favourite mate, Ndai. Oh, my God, this is brilliant. Minte, I said he was a better player. Raya versus Donnarumma. Oh, let's go on with Raya. Gvardiol versus Gabriel. Oh, it's gone with Gabriel. That's interesting. Haaland captain versus Phil Foden captain. Now, I'll have to change the cards team if this goes one way or the other, but let's have a look. Haaland captain. All right, there we go. João Pedro versus Jared Bowen. All right, let's go on with João Pedro. Gyökeres versus Isaac. Oh, it's gone with Isaac. Not a surprise. I don't really rate Gyökeres. And Cunha versus Mbeumo. Please be Cunha. Oh, no. The card does not like Cunha anymore. It's gone with Brian Mbeumo. Those are your cards calls for Game Week 6. That brings us to the end of what has been a jam-packed late mail. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. I hope to see you on the deadline stream tomorrow at 9 a.m. UK time. We'll then be back for 2 watch-alongs tomorrow night. Well, I'm going to do the Man United-Brentford game at 12:30. And then post that game, we're going to have about a 10-minute, 15-minute break. And then I'll be doing the 3 p.m. watch-along games where people are going to have Haaland captains and everything else going on. I'm going to be covering all those 4 games live. And I remember what they are now. It's Man City versus Burnley. It's Chelsea versus Brighton. It's Leeds versus Bournemouth. And it's Crystal Palace, which will be the feature game against Liverpool. It's going to be great. Hope to catch you then. If you've enjoyed that, smash a like. Sorry for the graphics. I'm tired. What can I say? No excuse. I'll be better next week. And leave us a comment what you thought of the show. And if you haven't already smashed that subscribe button, please consider doing so. Let's go. Game Week 6. Come on.